Hi, in this video, I'm going to share about why I think the Zambian restructuring deal for the debt, it's historical, and also the role of the Chinese and South Africa in the restructuring deal. I just find Zambia I find it beautiful, and I've never been there, but I find the country beautiful and the spirit of the people of Zambia. It is your typical African spirit. And I've just compiled, as I will be talking about the debt restructuring deal, I've just compiled a very short slideshow of just to showcase the beauty of Zambia. It's like all African countries. Africa is beautiful. It is a stunning, stunning country. So just to showcase the beauty of Zambia, I've compiled a slideshow. But first off, I just want to come back to today's show, the reason for today's show. It is just to talk about the restructuring deal that has been making headlines across I could say across the world, across South Africa. So in a bit, just to give a bit of background, the deal was signed. It was a memorandum of understanding that was signed on December 2021, and with the IMF, listen, for a rescue package for a $1.4 billion rescue package. So then obviously the deal has been signed by the president of Zambia, Hakainde Hichilema. So the background of this deal is that in 2020, Zambia defaulted on the Euro bond payments. They couldn't pay their debt. So they were the first country to default on this debt. And obviously it didn't sit well. So then Zambia applied to the G20 framework to help them to restructure their debt. So this is an initiative that has been designed obviously by the IMF amongst others. And this is the key of why the G20 framework came into being. It will enable the Eurobond holders to get the payments back from the International Monetary Fund via arrears, which Zambia would have to pay at a point. So this is not about the IMF caring about Zambia. This is about the Eurobond holders getting the money that Zambia owe them. So the agreement that was signed it wasn't signed, it was an in principle agreement. And the agreement is it has been reached in principle with a bondholder group led by the Beijing Capital Group, a Chinese state-owned investment firm. So that agreement was only reached now in October 2023. So the bondholder group agreed to accept a haircut of 50% on their claims, and that amount comes to roughly 6.5%. A haircut, it's when you take a reduction in payments when it comes to debt repayments. So basically your debtors will pay back less. The agreement also involves other creditors like the IMF, of course, the World Bank, and various bilateral lenders. So what does this mean for Zambia? The debt restructuring deal for Zambia's bilateral debt with China. This is with China. It will then allow Zambia to pay 1% of the interest rate of 1% until 2037. Normally the interest rate, it was 3.9%. So they reduced the interest rate to 1% until 2037. And then they gave Zambia 20 years to repay this debt with a maximum interest of 2.5% after 14 years, which means for the first 6 years it will be 1%, and then after that, for the first 14 years it will be 1%, and then after 14 years they will increase it to no more than 2.5%. And then an interesting stats, because numbers are very interesting, numbers don't lie. And an interesting stat, the Chinese is not the majority holders of the debt. The Chinese accounts, I think it's only for 5.3%. Let me rephrase that. 30% of Zambia's total loans are owed to China. 30%, the other 70%, it's IMF, private bank, private lenders, and then also to other governments. Then when Zambia defaulted in 2020, they paid $436 million in interest and on external debt stock. And of that 436 million, China's interest only accounted for 5.3%. And now in 2021, it dropped to 2.1%. So that is the background of the debt. And I said I will explain about the reason why I think this is a historical debt. The reason for this is normally the IMF, in terms of the IMF, they don't like to negotiate. The IMF likes to dictate. They don't negotiate. They come to your countries. They give you money that you have to pay with interest, of course, and they still want to dictate to you. So why I think this deal is so historical? They offered Zambia a rescue package of $1.4 billion. So they said to President Hichilema and his administration, the IMF said, if you want money, you need to restructure your macroeconomy. You need to get rid of fuel levies. You need to get rid of food crop levies, which means there's no subsidies for farmers and fuel also no subsidies, right? So that is what they dictate. And on top of that, you must still pay interest. So that's how they work. So then what happened with this deal? They said to Zambia, for you to get that 1.4 billion, you need to bring all your creditors to the party. So then we can restructure the deal. So for 2 years, we have heard that China was the country who was holding up the deal. But China was saying, we are prepared to negotiate. We can restructure the deal anytime. But here's the thing, IMF and your cronies. If we reduce our debt repayment or the interest from Zambia, then you also need to do the same. And IMF was not prepared to do that. So for the first time ever, the IMF and the Chinese are sitting around a table to restructure a deal with a debtor. Normally, the Chinese, when they restructure or renegotiate, they go as a country or as a Chinese investor or creditor, they go to the debtor. They did not do it with the IMF. And there was never any hold up from the Chinese side. China is also not the biggest debtor. I don't know who the biggest debtor is. That information is like trying it's like trying to get to some impossible information. But 30% of Zambia's debt is owed to China. And it's on that debt that now they are renegotiating a better deal. So the point I wanted to make, the Chinese have always been open. In this case, they've been open to negotiations, and they have been given Zambia debt relief, I think, since 2009. IMF, not so much. So what IMF is doing is they're holding, here is a carrot, and this is the money that we are going to give you. But Baba, before you get the money from us as the IMF, you need to sing to our tune. You need to dance to our tune. We will be the puppet master and you will be the puppet. And as part of obeying the puppet master, we're going to cause instability in your country. Why do I say that? When you reduce subsidies from a country, when you remove the fuel subsidies, it means fuel will be more expensive. Transport will be more expensive. Food will be more expensive. It means then obviously inflation will go up. Interest rate will go up. It will become more expensive to, if you have any debt, to repay it. That's what IMF does. IMF is not here for the goodness of African countries. They expect us as Africans to take subsidies. Do you know in Europe and in America, farmers get subsidies? Did you know that? But we're not. No, you darkies, you Africans, you're not supposed to get anything, but we will give you money. But we will dictate what those circumstances, the terms and conditions are. Here is another thing. Ne? This is, remember the G20 common framework that now Zambia is part of. That was put in place so that Euro bond holders can get the money back through the IMF. So this whole debt restructuring thing going on, this is just my theory. You can let me know what you think, but this is my theory. The IMF, because remember IMF and America, they are one. And America has this stupid, ridiculous war that they have with China in their minds. No? If you read the headlines when it comes to China in America and what America is saying about China. So in every possible way, they want to hamper China. The discussion of China, it's one for another day. But this is just my theory. So they want China either to write off the debt. Already the debt has been reduced that Zambia must pay back to China. But US, IMF, in their minds, they want China must write off the debt. But those private creditors and the IMF, they will demand the full amount from Zambia. So who's going to benefit? You tell me who benefit in all of this. Is it Zambia? No. Is it the Chinese? No. Who will benefit? IMF, the European bond holders, and of course IMF, and Western companies. Who up until now, because remember this, only a memorandum of understanding has been reached between China and Zambia. European companies have not come to the party. The bondholders have not come to the party. Private lenders have not come to the party. So 70% of Zambia's debt, there's no deal on the table for it. There's nothing. There's only a deal for the 30%. And IMF is saying for us to give you money when? To get our money, that deal must be concluded. Can you see how they're taking us for a one? You know why we are in this position? Because we keep on, the one president fixes things, then the next one comes and undo things. Then another one must come and fix things, and another one comes and undo things. The incompetence of certain presidents. This cannot be the story of Africa anymore. So we need to learn, our leaders need to learn. At the heart of money, It's financial controls, it's economics, it's accounting, it's understand what are the implications for my country when I take this money. IMF is a stranglehold on Africa. And they are the vehicle that's being used by different companies, by private lenders. They are the vehicle that are being used to strangle us from our resources. So the question I need to ask is, when is this going to end? And what are we going to do about it? Because right now, the Zambian people, you are feeling the pain of this debt, and you were not there when the decision was being made. I don't even want to talk about what's going on here in South Africa. I don't want to talk about it because I find the moment I begin talking about South African politicians, I get irrational, and I don't want to be irrational. So I will leave it at that. To say, at least it seems as if President Hichilema is on the right track. But unfortunately, to fix a mess, it's causing pain for those who were not part when those decisions were being made. The road to recovery, it's a difficult, painful, uphill road. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 1 step forward, 2 steps back. That is how it feels. But I believe as Africans, we will come through this, because this is who we are. We are still here. But before I end off, I needed to show the beauty of Zambia. I just needed to show the beauty of Zambia, because this country, for me, it's like you have such a beautiful, beautiful country. And I just wanted to show it in a way that I know best. That is the beautiful country that needs to be protected. This is the Zambia worth fighting for. This is the Zambia that you lose hope for. This is the Zambia, the future of your children, the future of generations to come. This is the Zambia that's worth it for you to stand and hold on and be part of the positive change. This is your Zambia. This belongs to you. And no one and nothing can change that. My Zambian brothers and sisters, you've come a long, very long way. You've survived many things. Stand strong and hold on, because change has to come. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and let me know what you think.